998, 999, 1000, 1001. Oh, hey. I didn't see that. Sorry guys, just doing a bit of a workout. Got over 1,000 push-ups. Actually, it reminds me, there is something I want to have a chat to you about. So if you've got a minute, stick around. I'm going to catch my breath and then we'll have a talk. G'day guys, welcome back to Living with BC. I'm Ben. Little known fact about me is I used to actually be a personal trainer. A couple of years ago now, I walked away from the fitness industry and I'm here to talk about why. Let's have a chat. Okay, first things first, this video isn't to demonize personal training or the fitness industry in general. If you're a trainer yourself or you see a personal trainer and you obviously enjoy your time and you want to keep going with them, you do you, right? This isn't, trying to sort of set fire to the industry at all. Also, of course, if I'd been a personal trainer in a different time or a different place, or maybe even if I'd just gone in with a different attitude, I could have had vastly different experiences to what I did. But the following points as to why I left the fitness industry are based on my personal experiences and what I didn't like and what eventually led me to leaving. First and foremost, I didn't enjoy the salesman aspect of it. So a little bit of background, to get your personal training certification, at least here in Australia, is generally between 6 to 12 months, depending on the route you take. I did it online, so it took about a year. In addition to that, that's all like online modules. So you'll learn everything from anatomy and different energy systems the body uses, a little bit on nutrition, and then exercise prescription depending on certain goals. In addition to that, once you're certified, you also need to do what are called CECs, or continuing education credits. So what they are is basically other fitness courses. You might do like a group fitness course or a kettlebell course, a strength and conditioning course, a weightlifting course, you name it. You can even just read scientific research articles and that gives you a certain amount of points. But over a 2-year period, you need to accrue 20 or more to stay registered. So you're constantly being fed information. With all that said, what I mean about the salesman aspect is you'd have people come into the gym, and this was 90% of my experience. People would come into the gym and they're the ones that are looking for help, but for some reason you need to sell why they should train with you. And that's kind of not really my vibe, especially because personal training is such a relationship-based thing that you're not really going to form a relationship over 30 or 40 or 60 minutes of talking to someone. So it's almost like dating in a sense. Like, how many people are certain that that they like that person after one date? Not many. Usually, you're like, yeah, I like them enough to go out again. And then after 3 or 4 dates, you're like, yeah, I actually like this person. Like, I want to kind of speed things up a little bit, right? So that said, when people walk into the gym and they're the ones that are needing help, but for some reason I need to sell myself to them, that really didn't fly with me. Like, you're the one that needs my help. Why do I feel like I'm auditioning for a role and you're doing me a favor? A lot of people also look down on personal trainers because they just have this really outdated view of things and don't understand what I mentioned before, all the different things you have to learn throughout your course, as well as the fact that you have to complete the continuing education credits every 2 years. And so a lot of people think that you do your course and then that's it. Throughout the course you have to do group fitness training sessions, personal training sessions, all under the supervision of a certified personal trainer, so they know that you understand human anatomy, energy systems, exercise prescription, certain goals that someone's looking for. Different things apply to different people. Obviously, certain age groups are more susceptible to certain things. Pregnant women, there's a lot of parameters there. So there's a lot of things going into it, but because you're just a personal trainer, people don't really respect that. And what are you expecting anyway? Someone to walk in with a Bachelor of Exercise and Sport Science? Like, they've all gone on to do their Masters of Physiotherapy, or they're working as professional strength and conditioning coaches in top level sporting teams. They're not going to work at a gym training people for 4 hours a day. One thing that eternally frustrated me was people would look down on really basic training programs. You'd write a really stock standard training program and they'd look at it and be like, nah, that's not what Hugh Jackman's doing for the Wolverine movies. Like, I don't want to do it. You're like, okay, firstly, Hugh Jackman's workout actually probably looks a lot like this, believe it or not. Secondly, if you're referring to the snapshot that you see in a Men's Health magazine where it tells you about Henry Cavill's Superman workout, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine workout, Chris Evans' Captain America workout, whatever, that's usually the final 6 to 8 weeks before shooting where they want to really hone in. It's almost like saying, like, you know, getting a professional sporting team, and in the off season, your training is going to look very, very different to what pre-season training is looking like, right? But someone who doesn't know what they're talking about will be like, no, I want a pre-season training program. You're like, you're not going to do a pre-season training program for 6 months. It's high intensity for a reason. It's meant to get you to a peak performance at game day and maintain it for as long as possible. And so people would come to the gym, look down on a really basic training program that's going to get them a pretty decent amount of muscle, a decent sort of strength building thing. It's going to increase their resistance. They're going to hopefully lose a little bit of weight, increase a bit of their cardio, and ease them into things. But a lot of the time they've got a really fit friend. And that's the worst thing, because their really fit friend has, you know, generally been playing sport their entire life, has been in the gym since they were 16. They're now 26. Like, they're an old hand at this. They probably know as much as the personal trainer does. They're just self-taught. And that's not unusual. There's a lot of people like that out there, right? But their unfit friend isn't in that same position. So they can't come in and do what their fit friend is doing. And if they could, why are you paying me? Go work out with your friend. If you can do the things that your friend does, just go train with them. You're wasting your time and money training with me. Another thing that annoyed me is we all know not to judge a book by its cover, but that's all that happens in the fitness world. I know plenty of people who are cover model fit. They're in great shape. They look great with their shirt off, men and women, but they're spouting 20-year-old information that has been debunked for at least 15 years. Or they're just telling you straight up lies because they don't know enough. But because of how they look and because they can speak confidently, people trust them, right? Similar sort of thing is a lot of people get into the gym, I guess because, you know, only recently we see like the explosion of CrossFit and weightlifting, powerlifting, strongman. These things are all getting a lot more popular. CrossFit obviously has been around for quite a while, but weightlifting is only really come up in the last 5 years in your stock standard gym. Same as powerlifting, same as strongman. Usually they would hold little sort of factions of their own, but they're coming more and more into the mainstream. But prior to that, the only thing people really knew was either going for a run or bodybuilding. And you don't go for a run in the gym, so they turn to bodybuilding workouts. And you'd ask them their goals, and they're like, no, I don't want to be a bodybuilder. You're like, well, why are you doing a bodybuilding workout? I'm like, because I don't know anything else. Or because the personal trainer, who is a bodybuilder, gave them that workout, because that's all that they know. Similar sort of thing can be said for judging someone from their age. Like, people my age were a little bit hit and miss. People younger than me trusted what I said. I guess trusting that someone older than them knew what they were talking about. But people older than me, even if they were 2 or 3 years older than me, didn't trust that I knew what I was talking about. It's a really strange thing to have someone walk in who looks like they haven't exercised in 100 years. They're 40 kilos overweight. They move like a rotting sack of potatoes, and yet they expect that they're going to be teaching you something. What are you talking about? And they don't want to hear it either. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They're just like, I know what I'm doing, but I need a trainer to help me. And you're like, it's such a weird phenomenon. It's like, if you know what you're doing, like, I'm never going to look down on you for not knowing something, right? Like, there's plenty of things that I don't know, and I would hate to be looked down on because I don't know them, because I can't know everything, right? So I would never look down on someone for not knowing something. I am, however, going to judge you quite harshly if you pretend to know something that you quite clearly don't. And this is generally where older people come into it. When I say older people, I don't mean elderly. They usually, you know, never really exercise, so they will, you know, defer to your knowledge. But I mean people that are sort of 40 plus, 40 to 60, let's say. The worst sort of clients, because they know a little bit, because they watched Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day, but they don't know nearly enough as what they think they know. As a personal trainer, I'm not there to count your reps. The amount of times people got mad at me because they're doing whatever exercise I prescribed and they'd stop and they're like, oh, what am I up to now? Like, I don't know. I'm not counting your reps. And they get mad. And they're like, well, what am I paying you for? You're like, I'm watching your ankle, your knee, your hip, your lower back. You know, how you do things is important. And I'm making sure you're doing them correctly. Obviously, there's a school of thought that's like, it doesn't really matter how you move. And that's true. Like, I believe that. We don't have time to get into it right now. But for the most part, for people that are really undertrained and have never set foot in a gym before, how you do things is important. So your personal trainer shouldn't be counting your reps. Like, you should be able to do that by yourself. They're looking at how you're doing things, because if you're doing something incorrectly, that's either not going to get you the goals you want or potentially set you up for injury. And that's obviously not a thing that you want. And then you're going to demonize personal training. You're going to demonize working out at a gym. You're just going to be like, I injured myself working out at a gym. I'm never going to do it again. And that's not a good thing. I once worked with a personal trainer who their clients absolutely loved them. And this is probably where I went wrong. Like, I didn't put this much energy or effort into training clients. But their clients absolutely loved them because they would wake up at 5 a.m. and the first thing they would do was text their client and be like, hey, don't forget, we've got a training session at 6 a.m. And then they would text them at 5:45, being like, don't forget, training session 6 a.m. And they'd go through the training session with them. And then when they go home, they'd text them again, be like, hey, great training session. You did really well. You're working on this. Awesome. Love your improvement, blah, blah, blah. And then around 3 o'clock, they'd send them another text message being like, hey, 3 o'clock slump coming up. Maybe reach for an apple instead of a chocolate bar. And all that's great. And if you've got a trainer that does that, or you're a trainer that does that, kudos to you. But I'm your trainer. I'm not your mum. I'm not here to be responsible for every single aspect of your life. Like, the only people I trained were adults. I never trained anyone under the age of 18. And by the age of 18, if you can't set your mind and set an alarm to wake up the next day, or you're going to hit snooze and sleep in, I mean, that's on you. That's not on me. And it's quite ridiculous to think that it's on me. I'll be there to encourage you. Don't get me wrong. 100%. Like, when we're training together, absolutely. I'm going to be encouraging. I'll tell you what you're doing right. I'll tell you what I want you to progress and work on for next time, etc., etc. But outside of that hour that we're working, a little bit on either side, I mean, it's your life. You've got to be responsible for it. Another thing that bothered me was people would haggle over your training fee. And it was really interesting because I always thought to myself, like, you don't go to the butcher shop and haggle over the price of meat. You just either pay it or pick something else. You don't go to hairdressers and haggle over the price they set. You just pay it or you find a cheaper hairdresser, But in personal training, you tell people your fee and they'd be like, nah, that's not worth it. It's not worth that. It's like, well, it's not worth it to you, but that doesn't mean that my time doesn't cost this much. Another thing along the same sort of line is people don't understand that they're not just paying you for that 1 hour session. They're paying you because you're there 15 minutes before setting up, getting everything ready so that they don't have to, because that's what they're paying for. You're also there for 10 or 15 minutes talking to them about how their session went, about what you liked, what you didn't like, what homework you can prescribe. If they're only coming 2 days a week, you might have some things that you want them to do every day or 5 days a week or something like that, right? You're then packing up because that's not their job. That's what they're paying you for, right? And we all know, let's leave the gym in just as good a shape as what we found it. So you're packing up at the end of a session. And then you're also programming what they're doing for the next session. Now that could be pretty easy. It could be a 5-minute thing depending on the client, but it could also be a 20-minute job. So then you're talking about what they think they're paying for is a 1 hour job. It's actually taking you about 2 hours to complete. So then cut their fee in half. If you're charging $45 for an hour, now it's $22.50 an hour is what you're getting paid. Long story short, guys, I didn't like convincing people that they should work with me. If you want to work with me and you like my vibe, you like the information I'm putting out, you like the sort of training, and that's important. Different trainers will train differently, and it's not just their personal style, but as I mentioned before, like people that come from a bodybuilding background, that's going to be their focus. People that come from a strength and conditioning background, that's going to be their focus. As much as, you're the client and you set the goals, right? And you're like, I want to, lose this sort of weight or be in this sort of shape or have these sort of performance goals. The way they train is going to be based off their experience. So that does matter. But if you don't like me and you don't want to train with me, I'm not going to convince you that you should. If you've got another trainer that you want to go with, that's fine. I'm not going to lower my price to try and get you to come with me. Like, I'm not that desperate. But hey, I'm also not a successful personal trainer, so maybe I should change my attitude, which I said at the beginning of this. So maybe I'm the problem. Anyway, guys, it's about all I've got time for. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs up anyway, because it makes me feel good. If you want to leave a comment in the comment section, maybe you've had a good personal training experience or a bad personal training experience. Maybe you're a personal trainer and have some of these experiences. It'd be great to have a discussion. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, stay cool.